Hi, Serena. For my final project, I decided to go with sort of the idea of using natural tools and tools found in nature out of natural materials like sticks, rocks, and such. I got the idea from the chapter in the book about Groundswell. It's a place in Ireland that they have. It's an art therapy, art education place, and they have like acres of land with wooded areas with like a pond, all this stuff to use as like the art therapy setting. And what I like about this is that they use nature, which is already all around us. You don't have to build this thing, like a room or with all any sorts of extras in it. It's all already there. Also, it doesn't have the four wall boundaries that we're kind of stuck with any normal art room. So it's conceptually, it's really interesting to me. Also, just the practice of it is cool. I like to be out in nature, and no, I just really like the idea of using nature as sort of a metaphor for life, on how things are always constantly changing. Things go away after a while, just like us. So what I decided to do was I went out and I found sticks, rocks, and other things that I could use as pottery tools to sort of use nature as the influence for the shapes and the way that I shape the pots that I make. Now, normally I would be using tools like this one and these for trimming, for shaping, for all sorts of things. And I would use like these ribs, and this is like made of plastic. Some of them are made of wood. I would use those to shape the pots to get sort of perfect curves, like what we see in this one. In this one, all the curves are very almost mathematical. There's no wave to them. They do it just the way I wanted it to, and they're perfect. So my goal with this was to use sticks and rocks to shape things, to let nature sort of guide the shape. And now the sticks that I'm using, I went out and I gathered sticks, I gathered rocks. I didn't gather them with any sort of rhyme or reason. I went out and I found whatever I found. I walked around in like the woods. We have a nature preserve indicator called Rock Springs. It's really beautiful. It's great to go around and walk around. So what I did is I sort of categorized the sticks into different sizes. So I have these bigger ones, and none of them are really more than a ½ inch thick. So I have these bigger ones, these sort of medium size with like all these little bumps on them, and then really, really small ones, because I figured there's no way I could make pots and not have a pin tool. So I decided to use these, and you can hardly see that on the camera. These are really, really small sticks. And then for shaping, I'm using these rocks. These two are like out of the river, and this one was just on the ground outside, and it's got all these cool different little shapes and bumps on it, and different like flat spots that I figure I could use for shaping and to get different organic shapes. So to make the tools, most of the sticks I just kept these just natural, however they broke. This one, to use as sort of a cutting tool, I did modify it, and I sort of made it angled like that, so I can use it to cut. So whenever I start, I pretty much start. It's all pretty normal. You still have to center. You still have to make the pot just like you would. But what I like about it is that the shaping of it, I would get really uptight with shaping using ribs, using like normal pottery tools. But whenever I'm using these natural tools, I let the shape of it sort of be defined by whatever shape the tool is and however it just goes on there. And see, on these sticks, they're not perfectly smooth. They have little bumps where there's other twigs coming off of them. They've got the shape it's not a perfect curve. Some of them have really nice curves to them, but it's not perfect. It has little bumps. It's rough. It leaves ridges whenever I'm shaping. And so, I don't know. I really like how that. I really like how that sort of influenced what I guess would be the reflection in how I see what I put of myself into the pots. I think whenever I was working with things, making pots that were sort of more mathematical, like the one that I just showed you, I think, I don't know, it's sort of like a reflection of how I was feeling about myself. And I've always like struggled with anxiety and depression, and I always sort of tried to make sure everyone thought that everything was cool. And it's almost like the pots, it's, you can, on the surface of it, you can trick people into thinking that I did this with my hands and it was real perfect, but there were tools. And so whenever you use natural tools, you still get to see what shapes everything, and you get to see what made it. And I think that's really cool. It's sort of, again, like in Groundswell, there was the metaphor of life, how everything's constantly changing. And I think this is another good metaphor on how what you see on the outside isn't always the same as what's going on the inside. But I try to use nature as a way to, I guess, be more honest with myself in my art. I think that's what I found from this. So again, it's still the normal process for making the pots. You still have to center, you still have to raise a wall. But once I get to shaping it, let things happen the way that they naturally would, and not force everything so much. I think I got really caught up in forcing the shape of my pots in the first while that I've been doing this. But now I think I don't know. I think this project's helped me to not force things so much, and to let the shapes kind of find themselves. I'm going to thin out the top a little bit more, and then I'm going to get into shaping it. So what I'll do is I'll use the rock on the outside just like I would use the ribs. What I'm doing is I'm pushing on the inside and then pulling it using this rock instead of a rib. And it creates these sort of grooves and marks that you wouldn't get from using a sponge or from a rib. It's all and it's always different on whatever side of the rock I use. Now these river rocks are much smoother, but they're still irregular. There's no perfect shapes in them. So I can't really get perfect curves the way I normally would try to. And the sticks, I really like, what I started doing with the sticks is I kept thinking of them really, my thinking was really uptight about how, well, these sticks are just like the other tools that are sticks, and they have to be either for cutting or the end of it is the important part. But what I started doing is, after I found this rounded one, I figured, why can't this be the shaping tool? So what I'll do is and it's interesting, in doing this I found the way I was thinking about the tools in the beginning, it was really, how do I put this? Again, just uptight. I was thinking really uptight about things and how they had to be. And now I think it's cool with using sticks as tools. You don't really think about how they have to be. You just use them as an extension of your hand. So what I'm doing whenever I'm doing this is I'm pushing out against the shape of this stick. Sort of similar to how I would use the rib tools. And so the shape of the stick gets imprinted basically on the form of the pot. And it leaves all these nice grooves and a whole lot of texture. And I can use one to go in here. clear it out. Alright. And now for trimming, that's where this one comes in handy, with this sort of like almost like a chisel tip. And you can kind of see on the end there, after a while they get a little eaten up. They don't last as long as steel tools do. Steel tools, they just, they're always sharp, but these I have to keep finding I'll break a new spot, like on these small ones that I use as pin tools. I'll have to break a new spot and sort of keep finding that new sharp area. And I'll go underneath it. And that's the process that I use for my project. Thank you very much.